Hello again, Disruptive Technologists. Hassan here. Today I'm speaking with David Postolski.
Wow.
Um, David is a partner at Gearhart Law and is a registered patent attorney and an intellectual property attorney. David specializes in assisting creators, artists, startups, entrepreneurs, and early stage companies with their U.S. and international intellectual property. And he also teaches master level courses at Parsons School of Design and Temple University around intellectual property and ethics. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, thank you for having me. No, I think that's a pretty good summary of kind of who I am and what I do. Maybe more will come out during the actual podcast.
Sure. All right. So to get started, tell us a bit about your practice, and your specialty, and some of the stuff you do.
Yeah, I've been practicing for about 17 years, and I started my career at large law firms and then large companies. And I kind of slowly took a long time, about 10 years for me to realize that I really wasn't happy there. And about 10 years ago, I decided to kind of devote my life to entrepreneurs and startups and emerging companies and, companies that were working on disruption and cutting edge, different type of kind of mindset, different way you run a business. And so about 10 years ago, I decided to do that. And it's been, very soul satisfying to work with inventors, technologists, creators directly, and really understand the journey from concept. It's very different when you're at a large law firm. You probably really don't have access to the inventors. Maybe you're being handed like, oh, here's a summary of their invention, and file a patent application or draft a patent application on it.
Yeah.
This is very different. Like, this is my day-to-day is really getting down and dirty with the inventors or technologists from concept, and like how we can strategize an intellectual property portfolio, but also getting involved in like the growth of the company, the commercialization, the monetization, the licensing. So we try to be like a one-stop shop for all of that. So we're not just protecting your intellectual property, but how can we strategize you to get in front of investors, or get into an accelerator, or try to work or emerge into China, or help a Israeli company try to launch in the United States. So it's been very soul satisfying. It's been really fun. That's kind of my day to day. So it's not just patents, trademarks, and copyrights, but all the kind of different corporate transactional stuff that goes along with that. In terms of agreements and corporate organization, formation, fundraising, exit, stuff like that. It's been really, really fun. The firm is pretty small, probably the smallest I've ever been at. We're based in Summit. It's me and my partner, Richard, and we have about 20 people in the firm, associates, paralegals, stuff like that. And so we're very entrepreneurial ourselves. Like, we're not only servicing entrepreneurs, but we're like an entrepreneurial system as well. Like, how we run our business, we're pretty lean. We do all sorts of flexible and nimble things with like payments and flat fees and not by the hour, and we don't take retainers. So it's been really fun. Like, just me, like kind of getting me as an entrepreneur. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but me as an entrepreneur and running this business. It was a startup. We're about 15 years old. That's been fun. That's what I was looking for that I couldn't find when I was working at large companies and large law firms. Yeah.
As like I'm hearing you speak, I'm thinking about my own experiences between when I've worked in a more corporate setting to working in a, to trying my own thing, or working in like with smaller clients. There's a scrappiness that you need, but also, so sometimes I think about my corporate experience and I'm like, man, this would be so useless if I'm talking to somebody who's just trying to get started.
Right.
I've actually got nothing to offer you at this point.
Right. That's a really good. That's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. How is that transition like when you were doing that? Because I'm sure you probably had hit a lot of moments like that where you're like, oh, how do I
I
help
did.
you?
I had spent 5 years at a large law firm, and then 5 years in-house corporate. The company that I worked with, though, actually provided me with my first touch with entrepreneurs. The company was Cantor Fitzgerald, which was the company that lost 675 people after the World Trade Center, and I joined them about a year after that. And the company was decimated, and they needed really to find a way. They're basically a financial services company, stocks, bonds, trading, stuff like that. They really needed to find a way to regrow. And part of their way was to create what's called the innovation division, which is very popular now. Like Deutsche Bank has one, and every bank has like an innovation division where they're like, launching ventures and are trying to attract startups. Back then, it was pretty cutting edge what they were doing, especially as a financial services company, not as a bank or anything like that. And so the CEO created the innovation division, and we were basically in-house patent attorneys for the company, but also we were looking for other companies, startups. We weren't really using that word back then, even, right? We were looking for other companies that our company could invest in. We're looking for entrepreneurs, right? We're looking for other entrepreneurial ventures that we can engulf into our company. And it was my first kind of experience working, I was on the other side of it, but working with the entrepreneurs that we were then engulfing into our company and trying to, invest in them and, create great intellectual property from. That was, I think, a perfect transition for me, that when I decided to leave and actually really devote to entrepreneurs, I felt like I was able to kind of counsel them as to what they really didn't know when they were being faced with an investment, or what they really didn't know when a company tries to work with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't like some of the companies that we approach didn't know what hit them. They just didn't know. And I think that a lot of startups don't, some of them don't get it. Like entrepreneurs or sometimes they don't understand, like, what could happen, what is an investor looking for? Did I do everything correctly? Did I protect myself correctly? So now I was able to really sit be their advocate where I wasn't before. So it was a nice transition for me to be like, oh, I can, the things that I did learn when I was in-house corporate, I can now flip and help them and prepare them for a big company possibly trying to acquire them, right? Being again, flipping the side. So it was interesting. I think it kind of all, karmically worked out, yeah. It worked out.
So if we think about some of the people, some of your clients you've worked with, you've got, you've got early stage startups, you've got some that have an exit strategy where they're probably planning on being bought by another company. Some that are, and I know like that sort of gets figured out sometimes at the beginning, but usually like through the process, whether they want to aspire to going public or getting bought out. But then you also, it seems like you also work with, and what we're starting to see is like this emerging creator economy of people that are, that are creating content for a living. How would you say, what is it like those two ends of the spectrum, working with clients in those two ends?
Yeah, it's different. They're so dramatically different. We work with a lot of inventors that are rooted in science, like chemistry, physics, bio, computer science, mechanics, electrics. And then there's the other side of the folks that we work with, not so much from a patent perspective, maybe from like a trademark and copyright perspective, where they're creating audiovisual works, literary works, brands, cool packaging, graphic designers, whatever. Maybe some of the stuff they're creating is potentially patentable too, but there's a big difference between the creatives and the inventors, and inventors are creative 100%, but the word inventor is really a special legal word for a person that creates something that's patentable, that's rooted in science or design. And then the other side of the spectrum are the creatives, the choreographers and, producers and filmmakers and writers and painters and and brand owners. Those are two different classes of people almost. Like, I hate to say that, but you know what I mean? They're diametrically opposed sometimes. And that's been fun. I think what's been fun about that is I can really I personally can spread my wings. Sometimes when you're at a large firm and you're working in the patent and you're working, my background is in chemistry and computer science. And so when you're working at a large firm, you're very pigeonholed, and we're only going to give you chemical patents. We're only going to give you, patents in computer science. We're not like, if there's like if there's a painter that needs to protect something, we're going to give it to somebody else. Really? I feel like I can help that person too. So it's been fun to, wear both hats in kind of going in and out of those kind of communities. I do a lot of presentations to artists and so not just technologists in the word of like, computer science or something disruptive, but also like, presentations to like arts communities or theaters or stuff like that. So people can, or like chefs or like people that can really need to really understand the value of what they're creating too, right? They're also creating something. And so what are the limits of their protection, if any, So I think that's been fun,
So let's get to another topic that we we're discussing before the interview. How do so with this emergence of NFTs and blockchain technologies as different ways of showing legal or of showing ownership, and how are you seeing that trend go, and what are your thoughts behind that?
So we actually have seen the trend probably earlier than most people. Like as patent attorneys, we're seeing it probably a little bit earlier than I think it reaches, like, Twitter or something. You know what I'm saying? Like or like the news or media. So I've been dealing in blockchain and crypto and token systems, NFTs, for a while now, for a few years, probably around longer, 6 or 7 years actually. And for a while, the actual patents that we were filing in those spaces, some of them were from like a theoretical perspective, right? Because the software wasn't really was still kind of being developed. And we've seen it, I think the biggest trend that we are seeing is how many industries are bending towards it, right? It used to be like just like it was just like a blockchain was just something that was related to like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, like, and that's really what the original association was. And now you see it, and you're seeing the use of blockchain technologies and tokens in everything, like gaming and healthcare. Like again, we may not be seeing these products on the market yet, but from a patent perspective, we're seeing it. Everybody's trying to apply wherever there is some personal identifiable information or sensitive information that is being shared. It has to be protected somehow, and so you can create a token or do something like that. So everybody's trying to use it. So healthcare, gaming, retail, right? Like just the whole e-commerce, anything that kind of exists on e-commerce that you can possibly buy. So it's definitely hitting its disruptive kind of zenith. And it's interesting. The patent office is definitely the United States Patent Office, and I'll just talk to the United States Patent Office, but probably what I'm saying is probably true of every patent office around the world. Definitely are granting patents. These are true novel approaches of using software. This is just another software solution at the end of the day. And there sooner or later, the patents that are being granted now, like for like the first movers, the people that got in quickly,
Yeah.
will probably begin to block others that are trying to get into it now, right? So others that people are trying to get into now and try to develop and do what they got to do will sooner or later, which it happens with any technology, will be blocked by the people that have already filed, or that were the early kind of movers. But yeah, patents are being filed, patents are being granted for NFTs and blockchain and crypto and all sorts of token methods and creations and processes and uses of these systems in different industries. It's exciting. I think what remains to be seen is how pervasive the NFT will be, based on the fact that it's not regulated yet, based on the fact that, we probably will see some regulatory body that will want to weigh into it, the SEC, something, so some sort of kind of regulatory scheme will weigh in, and then I guess we have to see what that means for innovation, right? Will it be stifled at that point? Will people just get out of it? I mean, when you think about it, if you think about crypto and like Bitcoin, like it's still like in the shadows, right? It's not really there yet, and blockchain too. It's not it's not really mainstream. So and maybe will never be. I don't know, but I think, I think it'll be interesting how it plays out. Yeah.
Yeah. Has there been any, or have you, or do you know of any, um, like enforcements around, like somebody trying to enforce
Their
blockchain
blockchain
patent?
patent.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not that I'm aware of. And it probably wouldn't be like, if you just look at the trajectory of when a patent infringement suit is probably brought, or i.e. enforcement,
Mhm.
it's usually somewhere between the 7th and 13th year after they've granted. So like we're probably almost there. Like if you want to look at the trajectory of blockchain patents that probably got granted pretty quickly, maybe now they're hitting their stride. I mean, at the end of the day, there may not be any targets yet for them, right? Like you have to look at that as well. Like, yes, the original movers that have patented technology may not have anybody. There may not be anybody to go after, or they might be people to go after, but maybe they might be small pockets, or they're a startup that's trying to maybe raise money and create a product and do development, and so that's not really someone they possibly want to go after. It costs a lot to go after someone to try to enforce your patent. So why? So I think we will see, like if you look at any sort of emerging trend, cannabis, 3D printing, these things will happen. There will be granted patents and then litigation and then enforce. Like it will happen, but we're not really seeing that yet in the world of blockchain and NFTs. Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious about your thoughts on, like, right now with there's definitely, it's early on, so there's not too much great infrastructure around NFTs. But right now, like let's say somebody sells an artwork for a few $1,000s, for the most part, anyone can go and download that JPEG, right off the platform, and so there's the owner who bought the NFT, who owns it, and then there is the random person that's just downloading it. Um, do you have any thoughts on, like, on how that goes over time, how that sort of plays out over time?
Yeah. It's an interesting question, and I probably could harken back to, I don't know if you remember, to the days of like illegally downloading music, right? It's kind of the same issue, right? At the end of the day, you can buy, or like if you would like download a movie from Netflix before, when Netflix first came out, and you were able to share that movie with a friend, like you were able to do that, and that wasn't legal. Like in terms of the terms of use, it wasn't legal. Or
Right.
you would able to download music from like a Russian website or whatever, a Turkish website,
Right.
and then you were able to send it to someone, and then those things stopped, right? It took, government and regulation, and it took like the music community to like, create systems to control that, and that's not really a thing anymore. It's not really an issue anymore. Everybody got their Spotify account. Everybody's, for the most part, doing what they got to do. We still have some issues with like movies, like streaming. There's still some illegal streaming going on, Cody, stuff like that. But like, what I'm trying to say is like, they're like, if we look at the NFT in like the art world, or the, like in like the graphical design world, I think sooner or later there needs to be an entity that kind of swoops in and says, well, the problem that Hassan just described is happening, and so how do we have to still kind of control. The NFT is not doing what it's supposed to do. There needs to be some still, a fine or law around, the transferring of that, or the downloading of something that's been already tokenized, or something like that. I think you know what I'm trying to say, but I think so. I don't think we're there yet. I think the United States Copyright Office, which normally is the entity around music and like these artistic creations and illegal downloading, God, it took them forever to get on the whole idea of like illegally downloading music, or like, taking a website down. Like there's so many things that they've like haven't modernized themselves to. Like technology hasn't really caught up to the Copyright Office, which has been around for 250 years. And so I think we have to kind of wait and see what's going to happen. I think we're probably going to go through a period of like, the NFT is kind of working, but not, like it's kind of protecting me, but not, so I think we have to go through some drama first and get some rules before, which is what happened, which happens with every other sort of art form, or software for that matter. And so I think we have to go through some of that first. It sounds terrible, but yeah, I think that's the way of the world, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sounds like the what it is to be early at something,
Yeah.
to be at the forefront. And so thinking about the type of clients you work with that are a lot of people in the emerging technologies, and what advice would you have for entrepreneurs that are specifically like in this
Space.
like the large ambiguity that they're dealing with?
Listen, first of all, I think I just want to clarify. I'm a fan of the NFT. I'm a fan of it being being technology that really almost like a watermark kind of marks the ownership of something, right? I get it. I love that. And I think the artistic worlds that they're dealing in need it, because we're dealing with worlds, especially the clients that I deal with, that are, I hate to say it, clueless when it comes to how to protect their properties, right? That like, so here we are, we're introducing technology, but we have artists that don't even, without technology, don't even know how to protect their works. And so there's so like, and I think why that is because copyright is the form of intellectual property that is automatic upon creation. So if I paint something, it's mine under copyright law because I create it, and I only have to register that with the Copyright Office, and thus I'm protected fully because I have my registration. But so many artists don't do that because they know that they're falling into the bucket that it's mine anyway. So why do I have to register? But there's a lot of benefits to registering. So now we're introducing the NFT to kind of create this digital ownership that won't take the place of copyright, or maybe it will one day, or maybe they'll work hand in hand. Who knows? But like, I don't know. I think counseling a client in this space is a two-pronged approach, which is one, do it the traditional way, like get your copyright registration, because you're probably not even doing that. And then we can kind of go into the technology part of it, like I think, which is good. I don't think you can do one without the other, is what I'm trying to say. I hope NFTs don't start to, really destroy the copyright system, or if it's going to do that, then I hope it's done with the Copyright Office's knowledge that they need to work with the NFT technologists that are trying to create an alternative system of digital ownership. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I think that I think there's a lot of education here. I think most creatives are not into technology so much, so they not probably sure what an NFT is. So I think we have to go through a round of lots of rounds of informing people, and educating them. But in theory, it's the NFT process has a lot of good value to it, and I think I just don't want it to be the sole protection that somebody relies on, when I don't know how a court's going to look at that either. A court understands a copyright, but how will they understand an NFT at this point?
Yeah, that's the big question. But I think what you're saying about, it's like there's these traditional systems in place, don't follow the new technology and ignore that system that's in place. Like, use both for the time being until something new comes along that recognizes.
It's the same. It's the same thing. If you look at like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, it's it's unregulated, which is attractive to people who use it. That's one of the reasons why people want to use it. It's not insured or backed by banks or the man and stuff like that. And yet that also has a double-edged sword, which is if you are hacked, or famous cases of this, right? You're hacked, you lose money, you're not complaining to anybody. No one to complain to, because it's not regulated. So also with NFTs, I want it. I'm not advocating a regulatory structure around it, but I think just based on the world, the world we live in, or the country we live in, we may need a regulatory structure around it if it's really going to help in the way that I think it could help to creatives and entrepreneurs and disruptors. So I think that's I don't and I don't know who's supposed to lead that charge, of creating a regulatory scheme around a technology that's new. That's always a question.
Well, I feel like I can ask you questions for hours. I think it's been, we've been going for about 30 minutes. I think this would be a good time to start wrapping up. Is there, is there anything you want to leave our audience with? Like, we're a lot of people that are involved with disruptive technologists are just interested in, starting their own ventures, or, a lot of them are in that place. So anything that you want to leave them with?
I think I want to say that usually when I'm working with an emerging technology or a disruptor, there is a lot of like personal pride that kind of goes along with that. Like, I am a disruptor, and this is the way I want to do it. That type of thing. I think it's, again, I'm not advocating that you file a patent on your disruptive technology or a trademark or copyright, but I think understanding whether you could, or what the value could be for that, or what the benefits are of protecting it, or what the risks are if you don't, needs to be something you're empowered on, right? Like that needs to be something. If you know, if you want investment for this, you know, you might need it. If you want to give this to the world as, you know, like this will, you'll go down in history, and I don't care who copies it or takes it or steals it or whatever, fine, great. But as long as you know that you could have maybe protected it, you didn't have to. It's a choice you made, right? At the end of the day. So I think that's kind of what I want folks to know. I'm all about education and empowerment. I want people to make informed decisions, not, you know, not get the patent because it costs a lot of money. That's not a good reason, like in my mind, especially when you can work with someone where they're trying to eliminate the economic incentives of, you know, like where it's not expensive to file a patent. So now what? What's your excuse? Right. So, but if you made the decision on like, no, I want to be the type of technologist that creates something and gives it to the world, great. God bless. Awesome. But as long as you understood that you could have protected it, you chose not to, you know, for the right reasons. So yeah, I think it's all about education and empowerment. The more you can learn, and I think every entrepreneur should be a sponge for actual learning. Um, I continue to learn every day, and I expect others to as well. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for having this conversation with me.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.